Hello, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondin, and I'm the author of Chakra Healing for Vibrant Energy, Exploring Your 7 Energy Centers with Mindfulness, Yoga, and Ayurveda. I'm also the author of The Wheel of Healing with Ayurveda, an easy guide to a healthy lifestyle. You can find all of my published books on Amazon. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below. Click on the bells, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. I am here with the Empowering Thoughts video on why you must treat yourself better. On this channel, we are talking about the pathway to self-actualization and self-realization. And treating yourself better is one of those crucial things on your path to self-actualization and self-realization. I'm here with my 2 mascots, Gudetama and Grogu, right over here. I'm here with my Grogu tumbler with Ticino Dandelion Caramel Nut Tea. Sit back, relax. We're gonna talk about this. How to treat yourself better. Now, when I talk about treating yourself better, I'm really not talking about something superficial. Some people think it's like, oh, buy myself better clothes, or take myself to a spa day, or do something special for myself. That's not what we're talking about here. To begin, I'm going to give you 2 quotes from the book, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And here are those quotes. But nobody abuses us more than we abuse ourselves. And it is the judge, the victim, and the belief system that makes us do this. In your whole life, nobody has ever abused you more than you have abused yourself. And the limit of your self-abuse is exactly the limit that you will tolerate from someone else. If someone abuses you a little more than you abuse yourself, you will probably walk away from that person. But if someone abuses you a little less than you abuse yourself, you will probably stay in the relationship and tolerate it endlessly. When I read this, it was probably a few months back when I first got my Kindle. I'm not a big fan of Kindle books, you guys. I like the actual books. I like to be able to annotate and highlight and write in the books. But I did procure a Kindle, and this was one of the first books that I got. I had never read it before. I know it's an older book. It's from, I believe it was from 1997, so I had never read it before. So here I am reading the book, and when I stumbled upon this quote, it's toward the beginning of the book, I was dumbfounded. That concept of how we abuse ourselves more usually than the people around us, and if we stay in a relationship with someone who abuses us either mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, it usually means that we stay with them because our self-abuse is greater than them. Whoa, that was a huge epiphany moment for me. You see, if you've been following me for some time, if you've been following my channel, since I started talking about relationships back in 2018, I mentioned that I've been in some turbulent relationships. Now, nothing physical, but all about emotional and psychological abuse for sure. When I was explaining this, it always comes back to this, and I figured it out, of course. But before then, I couldn't figure out why I had the other areas of my life together. But when it came to my romantic relationships, I always found these relationships where the person didn't treat me well. It was either more one-sided, or there was gaslighting or emotional abuse or psychological abuse. And I couldn't figure it out. Why was I staying in these relationships? And of course, we need to remember that in all relationships, there's something good and there's something bad, right? No relationships are 100% perfect. So there's always the pros and cons. But definitely in most of my romantic relationships, if not all, it was always a situation that I was tolerating. And especially coming out of a relationship with an alcoholic person and looking back at that, I always wondered, like, why did I stay for so long? Why did I stay all of those years? And for some of you that are new to my channel, I was in a relationship with an alcoholic person for 5.5 years. And I even wrote a book about it. But I always ask myself, I love myself. I thought I loved myself. Why did I remain in that relationship for that long? I know I loved the person, but with the amount of chaos and pain that was in that relationship, I always wondered, why did I stay? And I found the reason in those quotes from the 4 agreements, which was, if somebody abuses more than we abuse ourselves, we will leave. But if somebody abuses us a little bit less than we abuse ourselves, then we will stay. That was crazy to think that the reason I stayed in those relationships for so long was that my self-abuse was more than how they treated me. Okay, can you just take a moment for yourself and let that sink in? It was the biggest epiphany that I've had probably in the last 10 years, just reading those 2 quotes. I was like, what? My mind was completely blown away. And so when I talk about treating yourself better, what I am talking about is treating yourself like your best friend on a deeper level. Understanding that what you would tell your friend not to tolerate, that you would not tolerate that yourself. The way you talk to yourself or talk about yourself, that you wouldn't tell your best friend, hey, talk about yourself in this way. You would usually protest a little bit. You would say, hey, don't talk about yourself in that way, or don't think about yourself in that way. And I know it's super subtle because we can always say, well, I love myself. Yeah, I'm hard on myself. But this goes so much deeper than that. Don Miguel Ruiz, in that book, The 4 Agreements, speaks about how we create our own living hell. And I believe this to be true. We create our own living hell by what we tell ourselves. So, for example, if you are ashamed, if you are embarrassed, if you feel guilty about an action from your past, and then you relive that moment in your past, whatever it is, because there are hundreds of thousands of moments we've had. But if there's anything that you're not particularly proud of, that you're ashamed of, that you feel guilty for, that you feel unworthy about, and then you remember that event, because our minds tend to remember the negative, you remember, in remembering that event, you are living that event over and over again, and you are feeling the feelings of that event and punishing yourself again and again and again. And we all do this. We all do this. If you remember that event, whatever it happens to be, and as I mentioned, there are hundreds of thousands of them, but you say to yourself, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why did I react like that? Oh my God, I was so stupid. I was so selfish. I was so this or that. And then when we remember it, we're telling ourselves those same things over and over again. And so we are punishing ourselves time and time again for the one thing that we did at that one moment in time. And then stack that on top of each other for all the events in our lives where we felt like we didn't do the right thing, we didn't act accordingly, we didn't act on the up and up, or that we feel guilty about, or we feel shame about, or embarrassed. We are continually creating our own living hell. When Don Miguel Ruiz in these quotes speaks of us abusing ourselves, really that is what he is speaking to. How we talk about ourselves, how we perceive ourselves, how we punish ourselves, and then how we remember our past and our failings and downfalls. And as we remember them each time, we're reliving it and continuing to live in that punishment, continuing to punish ourselves for it. And it doesn't help that everybody has been taught to do this, and everybody does indeed do this. Have you ever had anyone say to you, whether it's a parent or a lover or a best friend or a sister or brother, say to you, or even a teacher, right? Say to you, you should be ashamed of yourself. Have you ever heard that? Has anyone ever said that to you? You should be ashamed of yourself. I heard that a lot growing up. And so when someone injects that poison into us by saying to us, you should be ashamed of yourself, we take that on, especially if you were told that when you were young and still impressionable, and we're still impressionable, but when you were younger, you're a lot more vulnerable, a lot more impressionable. And you take that on and you say to yourself, yes, I should be ashamed of myself. And then you relive all the moments of why you should be ashamed of yourself. And it stands to reason that if that is something that you do, if that is something you were brought up with, then you are constantly blaming yourself for past actions, and you are punishing yourself again and again and again and again. Mr. Ruiz mentions that we are the only animal in the animal kingdom that punishes ourselves for one event more than once. In the animal kingdom, right? Something happens. An animal gets into a fight over territory or food or a mate. They get into the fight and then it's over. It's done. It's complete. The animal in the animal kingdom, besides humans, is not sitting there in their cave, in their corner, in their tree going, you stupid animal, why did you do this? You should have fought this way. You should have left it alone. You should have let the lion take that zebra. Why did you try to fight it? Right? The animal's not doing that. They just sit around licking their wounds, wait for it to heal, and then they go back out and live their lives. They're not ruminating over everything and punishing themselves again and again. Us as humans, we are the only ones who continually punish ourselves for our past actions or inactions or words or deeds. And so when you really understand this concept that when you are trying to live a life that is more aligned with your soul and your soul's purpose, which is the point of self-actualization and self-realization, the pathway toward that which your soul seeks cannot include the lower vibrational frequencies of blame, shame, and guilt. Those are the lowest frequencies. Shame being the lowest frequency. And when we continually punish ourselves for our past actions or inactions, then we are constantly living or revisiting those lower vibrational frequencies, and hence we are reinforcing our self-punishment. We are reinforcing our self-abuse. And when we feel less than, when we feel ashamed, when we feel guilty, when we feel self-blame, we cannot experience the higher vibrational frequencies of unconditional love because we have to feel that for ourselves first. You can't hold the vibration of unconditional love for yourself and hold the vibration of shame for yourself at the same time. It is impossible. There is no way to do it because unconditional love annihilates shame, blame, and guilt. So you can't hold both of those frequencies. They don't even vibrate nearly at the same vibration, not even close, not even remotely close. So when we are having these conversations in our heads and we're revisiting the past, revisiting negativity and blaming ourselves again and again, then what we need to do is change the dialogue, change the conversation, put those memories to rest. Now, we all have those memories. Every single one of us has those memories that come back to haunt us. Sometimes they're more frequent than others. Sometimes there's some triggers that make those moments arise daily. And when we change the conversation around those, we give ourselves the opportunity to have our next action, our next set of words be the most empowering ones in our lives. The problem with the human mind is that we tend to be very black and white. Something is either giving us life and vitality, or something is putting us in danger or harm's way. It's a very instinctual way of acting or reacting. But we have the higher mind. We have the opportunity to have the higher mind to be able to make bigger discernments than those two. The way I like to see it is that we are making decisions on a moment-by-moment basis. And those decisions are neither completely good or completely bad. Those decisions will lead us into a certain route or a certain pathway. And in every moment, we have the opportunity to course correct. And we all make mistakes. And if we make a mistake, it doesn't set us into the category of bad, or it doesn't set us into the category of having shame or guilt or blame. It's just a misstep on a pathway that we can mindfully perceive as the pathway to our own soul's evolution. And when we look at it as just a blip, just a misstep, and we don't associate feelings of blame, shame, or guilt to that. Now, if it's a misstep that hurts somebody else or hurts yourself, you might need to make amends to yourself or to others. And that is a way that you can correct that misstep. But when you do, it's like you learn in that moment. Now that you're aware, you learn in that moment, and then you're able to let it go as just a part of your process toward becoming self-actualized, becoming self-realized. And it doesn't become this categorical concept of an action, however benign, or maybe not so benign, but like an action's gonna make me this terrible, horrible person, or it's gonna make me an angel. Like, that's not the way life works, but we tend to think in those terms. What can you do about the past? I know you're asking me that right now in your head. You're like, what can I do about the past then? Every time a negative thought comes up about your past where you tend to abuse yourself because of it, you punish yourself because of it, all you need to do is to say, I forgive myself for that action, inaction, the words. I was doing the best that I could at that moment. I didn't know how to do things any other way. And if I did, I would have done things differently, but I didn't. And so when you can say that to yourself, you're not replaying the same record that has been playing for the past 6 months, year, 10 years, 50 years, 60 years, whatever time it has passed since you have done that action or felt guilty about it. And when you're able to take each of those and say, I love myself, I forgive myself, I was doing the best that I can at that particular moment, I let that now go. Then you will stop abusing yourself. And when you do that, guess what happens? You will choose better relationships for you because you have a better relationship with yourself. And I am realizing it. The road to this for myself has been long, has been really long. And believe me, as I sit before you today and record this video, things still come up. Those negative thoughts still come up. Thoughts about my past, thoughts about things that I wish I wouldn't have done, wouldn't have said, still come up. The only thing is that now I have the tools in my back pocket to be able to pull out and say, all right, I'm gonna stop punishing myself for this past act. I forgive myself, I love myself, I give myself grace, and I didn't know any better. I was only doing what I thought was best. Even if it wasn't a great action, I was just doing what I thought was best. I didn't know better, but now I know better and I can make my next action better because I know better. And when I say you must treat yourself better, it is for the good of yourself, your life, your soul's evolution, and ultimately for humanity. Because what is that adage that some people say, like, hurt people, right? So if you are hurting inside because you have so much self-abuse going on in your language, in your self-talk, in your memories, rehashing all the negativity from your past, if you have all of that going on, you are hurting yourself. And if you are hurting yourself, then you are very apt to be spouting off that hurt to someone else. That's just the way it goes. It has to diffuse at some point. But if you are giving yourself love, forgiveness, grace, if you are giving yourself the beauty of forgiveness and being able to know that you're human and humans make mistakes and that you don't need to punish yourself for any past actions, you can learn from those moments and choose a different course of action for your future. So I hope this was helpful to you as much as it was helpful to me, because it really helped to put things in perspective for me. I want to thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. Thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this video with others who could use a little bit of help in the way of personal development. Thank you so much for your support of my YouTube channel. You can buy one of my 11 published books. You can join my online meditation course. Meditation is a wonderful tool to have in your back pocket to help expand your consciousness into unconditional love. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.